Are you saying you faked with me?
Yeah.
Wrong, now you're single.
What do you know about sexual relations?
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
You're listening to the Come With Us podcast, talking the good, the kinky, and the ugly. Here are your hosts, Beth, Aaron, and Tina.
Hello, 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 all you sexy holes and poles. Welcome to Come With Us podcast. Today we are following up on last week's episodes where we just started dipping our toes and, well, maybe dipping our tongues into other people's mouths and, you know, unicorns, threesomes, thruples, that sort of stuff. So if you haven't listened, I really suggest that you go back. We got Mark and Ava. They were with us last week. They're a happily married couple of over 10 years. And several years ago, Ava went to Mark with what most men would find the most delicious and delightful proposition, which was, hey, do you want to bring another woman into our sexy life? Oh my gosh. So we'll learn about that from the last episode. And today we're starting with, they go to a meet and greet and suddenly Ava finds herself making out with a woman for the first time. So it's hard to do any better than that. I'm Beth Darling at BethDarling.com, also the author of The 5 Kinds of Intimacy, How to Keep Your Love Alive. And I got to tell you, threesomes might be a way to keep things alive, but intimacy is really where it's at. So if you haven't gotten the book yet, please go to Amazon.com, The 5 Kinds of Intimacy, How to Keep Your Love Alive. I'm the author, Beth Darling. Get your copy now. Read it with your partner. There are 17 intimacy practices that you can start pronto, today, tonight, even before you read the rest of the book. They'll bring you closer, happier, and give you the secrets to a happy, long-lasting, fulfilling, passionate life. So, all right. So today, thank you, Aaron. Are you excited? Like, does the thought of like two women making out in a bar unexpectedly, does that turn you on? Because it sure as hell turns me on.
I mean, it's definitely hot. Women are hot. Like that's that's not
the more the merrier. The more of the hotter.
I mean, it's two attractive women making out in a bar. Yeah, like if I'm sitting at a bar with just friends or like having dinner or something like that, and I look up in the corner and there's two women making out, I'm like, oh, that's really cool, like fun. But at the same time, it's like if I'm not involved, it's like, oh, hey, cool. It's just like seeing a really cool car driving down the street. Like if you're driving on the highway and a Ferrari flies by, you go, wow, that's a really nice, cool car. All right, well, I can't stare at it forever because I'm going to wreck my own car and I can't even afford my car, let alone a Ferrari. So you go back. So if I were sitting in a bar and I see two women making out, I'd be like, oh, that's really cool. I'm also not going to be the creep and just stare at them the whole time because I'm not involved in this time.
Oh,
I'm going to go back to what I was doing.
See, I would be staring because I could see Ferraris and Lamborghinis. They don't make me hot. They don't make me wet.
But
the sight of two women.
You're also a woman. You can stare at other women making out and you're not looked at as a creep. If a guy is just sitting there watching two women making out and drooling at a public place and he wasn't invited into the scenario or has no idea who they are, yeah, that's fucking creepy.
All right.
You want to talk about male privilege and shit. Women have that privilege where you can just stare at anybody for any amount of time and everybody's going to go, okay.
All right. Well, welcome, Mark and Ava. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for sharing your story. And I think that's a great place for Mark. Like, so if you're out and your wife is now making out with another woman, if you caught Aaron, Aaron staring from another table, would you be pissed? Or would you even notice because you'd be too busy looking at your wife making out with a woman?
No, I wouldn't be pissed because I would be staring right along with him. But I will say it is kind of creepy. He's right about that.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be two women. You could watch everybody's been at the bar where there's that couple who is just blitzed out of their mind. And they cannot wait to get back to the car. They can't wait to get home. She is all over him. Yep. She's got her tongue all over his like neck and stuff like that. And you can look at it and be like, damn, it looks like they're having fun. But again, the second you linger for longer than like 2 Mississippi, then you're staring and then you're creepy. And that just
okay.
You can't go that far. But so where we left off, Ava, Mark, you were both sitting at a bar at a meetup. All of a sudden, you turn around, you see your wife making out with a woman. Ava, was that the first time you ever kissed another woman?
Yes.
Okay. That was my real question because, like, we've had stories before of, women like, oh, when I was single, when I was in college, I would make out with other women when I was drunk and stuff like that. And you're like, all right, cool. That, if you go from that to, okay, I was, in a committed monogamous relationship for 10 years or 8 years, and then I went back to making out with women, that's one thing. But this is the first time your lips and another woman's lips have touched.
Yeah.
That's where it's especially Mark, if I knew my wife had never kissed another woman, I turned around and she's got her tongue down another woman's throat, then I'd be like, okay, hold up. I need a second because I got to process what the fuck my eyes are seeing because I don't know if I believe it.
Well, yeah. So that's exactly right, Aaron. And just I'm going to paint a picture here because the woman actually straddled Ava, and so they're face to face. And so it wasn't like just hey, we're sitting next to each other and we're kissing. This was an intentional, hey, I see you, I think you're hot, I want to taste you. And so I was taken back.
Wow.
Wow. And okay, so and you didn't ask first, like you went to this thing and had no conversation about what was
I think this was they weren't strangers. We had been to meet and greets before, but again, this wasn't kind of set as the intention that there was going to be play. I think there was a lot of booze flowing enough, and it was late enough that things took that direction.
And it was a public venue, so there was no thought in our mind. At least in my, I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for Ava, but in my mind, it's a public venue. Right? How much is really going to happen here? There's really no need to talk about anything because nothing's going to happen here.
And to be honest, the flirting, was just as enticing and erotic for us, exciting, which would lead to, as Aaron said, to can't wait to get home and expel that excitement and energy on each other. And really that's kind of what our intention was going into this, is adding that extra spark. It was already, again, an amazing sex life. And this was just, how can we take it even to that higher, level? And so, these first times just going and flirting and watching, having a conversation with women or watching Mark, flirting with another woman was surprising. That, it was arousing to me. It was exciting.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to another car metaphor. If you have a car and you've been driving it for 2 years, and then all of a sudden somebody comes out and they go, dude, that's a really badass car. Like I've always wanted one of those. And it could be a freaking Jeep Wrangler. It could be a, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
The second somebody compliments you on that, you're like, you know what? I've always appreciated this car. It does what I needed to. I love this car. But the fact that somebody else saw it and decided to go out of the way, like, that the flirting and all that stuff, like, because my wife, when she was out in public a couple of months ago, she texted me and she was like, some guy just hit on me. And I was like, what? Like, and she was like, aren't you mad? And I was like, why would I be mad? Like, a guy complimented what's mine, and I trust you, and I know nothing's going to happen. So, yeah, you want to get hit on all you want? Sure. As long as you're not draining our bank account paying for booze, who cares?
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
But it is that feeling of, hey, I've got, like, I'm secure enough that I've got this person, and there's somebody complete stranger that also wants them. And some people, like, will open up the relationship. Some people just enjoy the fact of knowing, hey, the one that I got, other people want, cool. I've got the toy that everybody else on the block wants to play with, but they can't. Suck it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Reminds us of value. All right. So, Mark, then you see her and this woman.
Yep.
And then what do you do? Like, how long do you just sit there and watch? And don't you get hard, like, just watching this? Like, I think in about 2 seconds it would make me.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, it was like instant Viagra. I mean, it was. And then, what's interesting about this story is that as this is happening, one of the ladies in the group decides to straddle me and ride me and start making out with me. So when Ava was saying, I'm nudging her, trying to get her attention, because again, we haven't had a conversation about any of this.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to do is, piss her off or do something that, is going to hurt the relationship, because we didn't talk about any of this. Right. And so this led to some really uncomfortable moments as this woman is literally on me, making out with me, and I'm trying to get her attention and,
I was busy.
Is this okay? Are you okay with this? How do you feel about this? Right. And so it was the longest, I don't know, 15 seconds of my life. I felt like before I just kind of excused myself from the situation and, made an excuse that I needed to grab another beer or something like that. And so I had to leave Ava kind of making out with this woman, while I went to go grab a beer and come back.
Wow. And then what did you do when you come back? And I think you handled that really well, because I do think there is a difference for most people between like a woman making out with another woman versus like if Ava had been making out with a man, I think there are different sorts of feelings and stuff.
Right.
So you making out with a woman, I think actually often would have a different response from partners. So I think that was clever.
Yeah. So when I got back, they had stopped a little bit, but we're still there.
We terminated the night. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we definitely terminated the night because we realized that we needed to regroup and have a conversation about what is okay, what is not okay, what is the boundary. Again, we went into it as a complete meet and greet. It's a public place, so yeah, we had to regroup and have a conversation.
Oh, good. Okay. And I assume then, did you have any problems at that time, or were you both comfortable with what had transpired?
I think we were comfortable. We were just shocked, surprised, and learned some lessons. We definitely need to be having more conversations before we go in. And so we established what we call debriefing. So after, every encounter or time we go out or whatever, we debrief because we found along the way that not having the conversation did lead to some really difficult moments, ones that, that you can't foresee if you've never been in this experience, things that we were approached with that, again, we didn't even think to have a conversation about, is this okay? Is this not okay? And so it led to, a journey of some trials and tribulations, I guess, if you will, in terms of what the heck were you doing? Oh, I thought that was okay. Well, we didn't talk about that. Well, let's talk about it. And, it really, the open communication was a must. It was definitely a must. And we encountered situations that we didn't know that pushed us a little bit in our comfort zone, and, feeling sometimes, a little bit of jealousy, not to the point where you're upset, but, hey, I need some attention too, kind of thing. And, so, I think that was one of the best things we could do, is have the debriefing moments after.
Yeah. So I always tell people, I think the only way that you can open things up and have things work is if you really have a good, solid relationship between the primary people, because most people don't have that. But there is no way you're ever going to know exactly what's going to happen. You can't foresee everything. There's always going to be missteps. You just have to recognize that and then have a plan, like you say, the debriefing, to come back together. And there has to really be a lot of faith that you're both working together, not with ulterior motives or a selfishness in terms of, I'm going to get mine, even if you're not happy with it right this moment.
Right. And there are some items where, I think both Ava and I understood or thought that this was kind of okay and not a problem. And then after the debrief, it was like, well, no, I didn't really appreciate that. So let's do that differently next time. It's like, okay, great. And to be clear, most of it was on my end, not so much on Ava's end, because it is introducing another woman, not another man, into the relationship, right? So most of the missteps were definitely on my part, going, oh, well, I didn't think that was too big of a problem. Well, it is. So, next time we're going to do some things differently. And that it's great to have that debrief, and it's a must. You have to understand what you think is okay is not always okay. And sometimes we found that even though we had communicated that, this was fine, in the moment it changed, and maybe it wasn't fine. Right.
Yeah.
And so again, having that debrief afterwards, I think is really imperative to understand that, hey, I know I said that this was fine and agreed with it, but in the moment it made me feel uncomfortable. I didn't, want to do that. So let's not do that piece of it again.
Do you mind sharing like what one of the situations was that made you like during a debrief, Ava, go like, yep, nope, don't want to do that anymore, or don't want to witness that anymore kind of thing?
Yeah, one that just surprised you the most, perhaps.
There hasn't been anything that I said I didn't want to do anymore. I think our biggest challenge was multitasking for Mark.
No, but we mean with respect to his having misstepped.
Well, that was the misstep.
Was
the misstep was, hey, you have two hands, so, and there's two of us, so learn how, maybe you could learn how to use, so one's not just, and basically me, not just sitting there watching, but, and I think a lot of it was finding ways for me to feel connected to it, because it is a vulnerable place to allow that space for your husband and another woman to be in, and you're wanting to be engaged with it. And so there were, in the beginning, we'd find times where I'm like, you hi, over here. And, I can't say I blame him, because, that's not something that he had been a part of or used to. And he's, I think men in general, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but aren't as good at multitasking and making sure everyone is having a good time as, maybe we are. And that was kind of always on the forefront of my mind, is everyone getting, taken care of and feeling included. And so there was those conversations where, I felt pretty neglected, at this time. And then having that discussion, okay, how can we do that better? I need more eye contact. I need to know that I'm in it with you, and that you haven't forgotten about me, because this is, about the three, not just you two. Otherwise,
Not
that's something completely
turns.
different, or, taking turns, but how can that look a little different? And so that was a misstep that, I had to work through kind of on my own, how it made me feel, and then having the conversation. And it took a while. It took a while for that.
I would agree with that. I think, Ava kind of nailed it. I think men in general are not great at multitasking. I know I am not. And so it took several times, to have this conversation, to say, hey, there's two of us. We need to both be having a good time here.
But how do you do that if you're in the midst of fucking somebody? And I think the problem is, when we're in the midst of sexy fun, I help people all the time get into their body, out of their heads. Well, if you're in your body doesn't really multitask. Your body is just focused on pleasure and continuation. How do you meld that? How do you enjoy fucking somebody and still be paying attention to another one?
Great question. So there are certain positions that will allow you to, give pleasure to both ladies at the same time.
Please, what are they? Because I'm trying, to imagine this, right? What do you do?
So one that I can name off the top of my head is, if the man is on his back and is fucking one woman, the other woman can be sitting on his face. Right. And he can pleasure both at the same time. Right.
Does the one in back feel bad because they're not getting eye contact?
Well, that could be done a couple different ways. Right. So the woman that's sitting on the face can sit either way.
Facing towards the other woman. Mm-hmm.
Right.
See? Thank you. I needed that
picture.
picture.
No, it's a great visual, right? Because you can understand sometimes you want to be, So if sitting on my face and she wanted to make eye contact with me, then and needed more eye contact, then we'd do it that way, right? Or if Ava wanted to have more eye contact with the woman, then we'd flip and have more contact with the woman.
Wow. I don't know, Aaron, could you be busy like fucking one and licking another?
Probably not. I mean, just because to me, and this is probably gonna sound wrong, but like that sounds like half-assing it. Like, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do the 100% on the one thing. Like, I don't need to divide my attention, because then my actual efforts and attention are divided. To quote Ron Swanson, don't ever half-ass anything, whole-ass, or two things, whole-ass one thing. So, like, if I'm gonna, and if it were that, like, hey, my wife and I were playing with another woman, it would be whoever. And it's not I couldn't say how I would decide, but I would want to, you cannot evenly divide your attention, period, the end. There is no 50-50 of attention, and not only that, physical workload. So either you're not thrusting as well on the lower half, or your tongue gets distracted, or your hands aren't, doing something. Like, there is no 100, nobody in the entire universe will ever convince me I can 50-50 it 100%, and they get the same amount of effort and the same amount of
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Prioritizing one over the other, and at that point in time, that's when you deal with which one do I prioritize? Do I prioritize the one who's I've been in this long committed relationship to? Do I prioritize the guest? Because I was raised in the South, in Texas. You always make a guest feel welcome. You always try to, you treat a guest better in your home than you would treat anybody else. And so it's.
So how did you balance that, Mark? And I know that the energy and the excitement of the whole circumstance helps to make up for the multiples and stuff.
So I would say that, definitely the woman on the lower half is doing a lot of the work. Just because, as Aaron said, you cannot 50-50 it. As much as you want to claim that you can and think that you're some kind of Superman, you can't. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, what I do, or my approach, is just the woman who's on the lower half is doing more of the work, and then I'm able to focus more on whoever is sitting on my face, because the other person is doing the majority of the work in that way, right? So that's how I balance it. And to your point, Aaron, there's no way you can do 50-50. It's not possible.
No.
But everyone's receiving pleasure.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
But somebody, the woman, sitting like riding him, she's more responsible for the pleasure that she's receiving at that point. That's more of a, okay, well, like, I've got a dick, use it how you want. I'm kind of busy up here. To me, like, in my personal life, I take more pride in eating pussy than I do fucking, because fucking requires two people. I have it's a game of give and take, where if, my wife was just going to, not fucking pay attention and not give any effort, well, then you're not going to get a very good result, and the ended expectations are not going to be met. But when I'm eating pussy, that's just me. That,
that's your time to shine.
That is my, that is my solo at the Grand Opera. Cool. Yeah. I can do this, and I can put everything I have into it, and I don't have to worry about somebody. Like, if she's not in the mood, that's one thing. But
this is why I love Aaron. He does take pleasure seriously.
Yeah. I love it. So,
So, Ava, do you prefer, do you have a certain position if there's another woman that you prefer to be in, on the back or front, or do you like to rotate, or?
I think rotating. I think trying out different positions is really fun. I think my favorite, the hottest one is him behind her down on me. I think that's probably my favorite.
Oh God, yeah. So, then you've got a view, and you're not having to multitask. You just get to receive, and you can totally be in your plop. Oh yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. So yeah,
Mhm.
and right, yeah, makes a lot of sense why that would be right. You were enjoying your visual.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I don't have a sexy desire towards women and stuff, but having a woman go down on me, that would be totally fine. I say a tongue is a tongue, a mouth is a mouth. So that would be, yeah,
well, and
I could
interest,
totally enjoy that.
and not that, Mark's amazing at it, hands down. Women know the anatomy really well, right? Because we have a pussy,
Yeah.
and so we know really just maybe some different ways that men might not know, right?
Really?
Because
I think I
sure.
wouldn't I would have a hard time going down, especially my tongue's not that strong. I don't practice it very often.
But you know what you enjoy, you know what it feels like to receive that on your pussy, and I think that you can really relate.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's
So
pretty
how
cool.
long was it from the night of making out with two different women to the first time you actually had a unicorn in your bed?
That's a great question, Ava.
And you can either go in like actual like, oh, it was like 3.5 weeks, or you can do like how many other events you went to and stuff like that too. It's up to y'all, however you want to characterize it.
I'm just trying to remember because there were a lot of events.
I want to say it was years, wasn't it?
Really?
Ava?
It was a while. It was we went to a house party, the first one we ever went to, and again it was very selective. Everyone was vetted.
Yeah.
And there was a woman who we had encountered in one of the meet and greets before. It was just, again, a get to know you. Nothing happened sexually. Who happened to be at the party, and that was the first time. And they had different private areas where you could go off to, and that was the first time that we entertained that, had that. And at that point, we had decided that we didn't want to just do a fling thing, like a one night stand, if you will. Like it was important to us that we connected with the person intellectually and in different ways. And she was that one, and she ended up being a pretty important person in our life, and still is. So it ended up being a really great experience.
So do y'all have the same type?
We
That's
actually
a good question.
do.
I think we do.
Because that's something, again,
Yeah.
Mark, you said last week,
Wow.
the first thing that ran through your head was logistics.
Right.
And like that is the number one thing of logistics that would run through my head is my wife attracted to the same type of woman I'm attracted to? Because like everybody has their own flavor, whether it's, even if you're not actually sexually attracted to somebody, a woman can look at another woman and go, damn, she's hot. And I can look at her and go, yeah, she's pretty.
Right.
But like, that would be one of my things is like, how do we find somebody that we both agree on that meets both of our needs if by chance we're attracted to completely different types of people?
And I think that's what took us so long to get there. Right.
So did it end up starting like you both agreed, or was it like, oh, I like a woman with bigger boobs. Oh, I like a woman with a nice waist and a big butt kind of thing. And then you have to compromise of like, okay, well, we want this, this, and this is where we agree as long as we're both comfortable.
Yeah, no, it just kind of happened that we both really like the same type of woman.
I think the thing that we did find a stumbling block was the age. Meaning, I wanted to keep it at a certain age and
yes.
So I think that was one that we had to kind of work through differences. But yeah, surprisingly, that's a great question, Aaron. I never really thought about it, but we did. We just pretty much, there wasn't any that we met or that we weren't. One was like, oh, she was great. And the other was like, no, not really.
Well, so Ava, how did you have jealousy issues or insecurities about like, oh, she's got a better body than me, or if he sees that or he likes that, then he's not going to like mine anymore? Because I would have that.
No, and the only reason why is, since we've been together, Mark has always done such a great job of really complimenting me, and I know, everything he says is so authentic, and just makes me feel beautiful, and I feel really completely safe with him. So I never had issues when I looked at another woman thinking, sometimes I'm like, yeah, she has a great rack, I wish mine was like that. But, I never thought that, well, that's going to cause him to leave me for her, because I know our relationship is just so on a deeper level beyond physicality, that I never really worried about that. And, because of the way we know each other and love each other, I feel, and maybe not rightly so, but just pretty confident,
No, I think that's fantastic.
The idea.
Yeah, and I got to say, for people out there listening, like, I'm not at all, Ava, you are a beautiful woman, right? Undoubtedly. And so I don't think I don't think that just unattractive people have insecurities. I think sometimes just no matter what we look like, and, that there can be like fears and whatever. So I'm really impressed. And I think that says a lot about your relationship, that you had that comfort and security with each other, because I think that's a big deal for a lot of people. So yeah, that's very cool. And Mark, did you ever worry that maybe Ava would realize that she liked women better than men and would be like, forget you?
No, and the reason why I say that is because, like Ava mentioned, our relationship is so deep, and it goes to a different level altogether. She is my soulmate, in every sense of that word, and so I never had a fear of that. Bringing anybody else into the relationship would cause her to stray or want to go that direction. Just never even a consideration.
Okay. And I would like to point out, right, your relationship didn't just accidentally or luckily turn into this incredibly solid, amazing relationship. Y'all spent a lot of years and a lot of work, right, with experts in coaching and counseling or whatever, like, right, to do that. You're not telling people. Yeah,
Absolutely. We've gone through our challenges as well, and that's only made us stronger. And, just really, from my perspective, just allowed Ava and I to just be truly one unit, not a separate individual anymore. We're truly one unit.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's important, because people just somehow think, oh, they just got lucky with the relationship. And I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the backstory, it takes a lot of effort to get where y'all are. And
Absolutely.
It's very well
a lot
deserved.
of conversations. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying, Ava?
Oh, just that, there had been some times that the question was posed if we would ever consider doing like one-on-ones. Like I would go individually with the woman, or he would. I know some couples do that, but we decided that that's something very different than what we're looking for, that the third is an extension of us, to consider us like one unit, and then kind of with that other person, but we were never interested in him going out on a date with her, or although sometimes it has transpired to where we would become friends and she and I would go and do friend things, but that's different.
Okay. No sexy stuff without.
No sexy stuff. Right.
Okay. All right, good. All right. Well, so I know we're running a little bit long here, but the question I think I got to know, I'm pretty sure our listeners want to know, is, Mark, how do you keep it up for two women? What happens? Do you ever just come too fast and then are like, oops, like, do you worry about this? What do you do?
Yeah, so that's obviously a worry, right? I think, when I stop, the party stops. So I want to make sure that I can go as long as possible.
Which, by the way, for people listening, I tell men, bullshit. You can come. The party, sexy fun can still continue without a cock. Lesbians do it all the time. But I know what you're saying here.
Yeah. And so you, Beth, actually turned me on to a little supplement called Kangaroo, which works really well. It's really helpful. I don't use it all the time, but just in, being purely transparent, if Ava and I have had, kind of, just a long-standing sexual escapade over a few nights, and then we're going to bring somebody else into the bedroom, then yes, I'm going to need some help. And so that's typically the time that I use those supplements. But they work really well. And they do two things. They keep you hard longer, and they keep you from coming sooner. So that combination is really, really useful when having a threesome.
Okay.
And sometimes when it's just us two as well.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Apparently, Ava is greedy. I like this. Oh my God. I love it. Like, I'm just thinking, right? All these couples, like after, 15 years or whatever it's been for y'all and stuff, like just to have a woman who just wants more of your cock, right? That I'm pretty sure that is pretty much most husbands' dream.
It is. Absolutely.
Well, it's a good one. So
Yeah. The cock is good. I'm thinking the dream is good. I don't know his cock, so okay, but I believe you on both counts. So, all right. Well, then, do you have any advice, like, or what's either advice for other people out there thinking about this, or what you think is like one of the most important things you've learned from expanding and bringing in a third into your relationship?
Yeah, so I'll start with that, Ava, if you don't mind. I think the biggest thing is communication, right? Understand and what your boundaries are, what they're not. And even if you think there's no chance in hell anything's going to happen, have that conversation, because you don't want to be in that same situation that we found ourselves in. So have that conversation first, have it often. Push the boundaries a little bit. I think that's, a good thing to do, right? Within the limits of the relationship and with what everyone's comfortable with. But it's okay, I think, to push the boundaries and explore and be adventurous. That's kind of my 2 cents. Ava, what are your thoughts?
I would agree, the communication, and it's okay to start slow, and the community is really open to that. So when we first started, it was no what they call hard swap, so no intercourse. So it was just foreplay. And so it did take me a while to get to that level where I was ready to take that step for him, with someone else. And so we just took it at a pace that felt comfortable. I never, you can't push it. You just have to go with what feels good. And sometimes, we were okay with it never getting to that point, if that was, because it was just, again, more about adding some excitement. But yeah, and just kind of listen to your feelings and be honest with each other.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I thought that would be my last question, but Aaron, I'm going to give you the last question, but first I'm going to ask one more, which is, Ava, what was it like to go down and eat a woman out for the first time? Tell me. I'm like,
it was interesting, I guess, because you don't ever know what to expect. I've done oral given blowjobs, for a long time. And so it was, I don't really know how to describe it, to be honest. It was interesting. You know what? I will tell you what really shocked me. And I think this is going to really show my ignorance with other women's bodies, but I was surprised at how different vaginas are.
Yes.
So I think that was the most surprising thing that I found in that. Not that I've, not that we've explored a lot of them, but even in the ones that we have, I was like, oh, they're quite different.
Right. I say, like, a cock is a cock. You can recognize a cock from a mile away, but pussies, they could be like hands and feet. They're generally going to have the same parts, but those parts are going to look very different on each person. And that is, I forget about that. So thank you. Yeah.
And that caught me by surprise. Mm-hmm.
So, and people out there, if you're thinking about, there are different places you can go. There's like the vulva gallery or something there.
Yes.
If you search vulva pictures online, you can find,
you'll see how different, kind of like flowers, all the different flowers.
Right. Like snowflakes, but that's very cool. So, okay. Thank you. Yeah. That's good to know. Appreciate that. All right, Aaron, it's up to you to.
Good Lord. Okay, fucking first thing that pops into my mind. Mark, what's it like to have two women sucking your dick at the same time?
Yes.
That's fucking phenomenal.
Assuming that it's happened. I literally, this was just like the first thing I was like, oh, what? Okay, having two women. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, so it's fucking phenomenal. I think the challenge there is not making too much eye contact when it's happening, because it's quite arousing, and it definitely fuels the fire pretty quick. So you have to just do what you need to do to make sure that you can last a little bit longer, because it's fucking great.
So you're basically trying not to come? Like, oh my.
Well, yeah, depending on the duration and, when it's happening throughout the process, right? If it's the first thing that's happening throughout the sexual intercourse, it's not terrible. But if you've been having intercourse for a while and then that happens, it's a little more challenging for sure. Wow.
I never thought of, as a blowjob being like torture, but I suppose it could be. Wow.
It could be, yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Wow. Okay, well, that's going to give you something to think about, Aaron. It's like, I think for everybody, the idea of just being able to relax and feel safe and just have, it's an amazing feeling to have one person totally attentive and trying to please you, but to have two or more, even, like, I don't know, pretty much sounds like bliss. So yeah. I think most of us would enjoy that fantasy. So, all right. Well, anything you guys want to add, Mark and Ava, before we close up?
No, I think this was great. Thank you for the opportunity to join the podcast and give our 2 cents and perspective on our experience. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Really, really just enjoyed it. And for listeners, especially if you haven't followed us for our whole, all of the episodes and stuff, you can go way back. I don't know, early on, the first 6 months, maybe. We had another woman who was a unicorn with a throuple. And she talked about it from her standpoint. So if you're interested in this topic, or just enjoyed it and like me, just think about it. Go back and check that out. I forgot where it was, but early on, and we can put it in the show notes. But thank you all, Mark and Ava. It's really interesting to know. I really appreciate it, and appreciate your forthrightness. And I think hopefully people have a good idea. And it is hard to be old, mature, whatever, and still do new things, take chances. We have to allow ourselves to make mistakes, laugh about them, and come back and keep going. And y'all are brilliant at that. I appreciate it so much. So. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for Come With Us podcast. I am Beth Darling. Our guests are Mark and Ava. And I definitely am blushing and thinking, ooh, maybe I should go out and find a threesome now. But anyway, Come With Us podcast. We'll get the bare naked truth about love, sex, and relationships. Maybe even get a little turned on along the way. And again, follow us on social media for more sexy fun, tips, tricks. And you can find us Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So don't wait. We'll see you online soon. And Aaron and I, we're so glad to be with you on this sexy journey. Big hugs and love. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Come With Us podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at Come With Us Podcast and send in your questions, comments, and confessions to comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. Until next time, keep it fun, flirty, and naughty.